Greetings, ladies and gents. Good afternoon. Where you at? I don't know where you at in the world. You know what I'm saying? You don't know if you're from Romania, like the subject of part of this discussion we're going to do today, or if you're in the Antarctics, or if you're somewhere in South Africa. I don't know. You know what I'm saying? This is Al Achad. I'm over here in the Central America. It's not Central America, but the Central United States, whatever. So, like I said, you know the routine. Holography. Alakad, holographer.com/the book. So, this is a subject that is, just like a lot of these subjects that I choose for my life. Just been, what I'm saying, burning on my heart. I really wanted to come out here and share what I have to share, and perhaps it'll give you more insight. Or, what I'm saying, there's someone out here that's touching on things that other people are kind of skipping over or don't feel is important to discuss. And this topic today is, I feel is it's very important to discuss. And we're dealing with X-Men, you know what I'm saying? We're dealing with comic book stuff because that's all that's coming out right now, you know what I'm saying, in the theaters. That's all what's showing in these streaming services, you know what I'm saying, or something adjacent to it. You know what I'm saying? Like I just did a uh a live stream dealing with The Boys on Amazon. Why haven't you watched it yet? You ain't got no money in your account to, you know what I'm saying, to pay for the streaming. You know what I'm saying? Go ahead and watch The Boys, which is based on the comics, or it's making fun of or it's parodying, the comics that we know to be either DC or Marvel for the most part. So we dealing with the X-Men, and for those of you that don't know X-Men is, these are it's a storyline dealing with some Marvel comics created by Stan Lee, who's like, considered the god of comics, and he died like a few years ago. Every damn near every Marvel movie he done made a cameo in it because he, helped create some of your favorite characters like Spider-Man, X-Men, Iron Man, Thor, the Hulk, you know what I'm saying, Fantastic Four, Black Panther, you know what I'm saying? Yeah, Black Panther was created by this Jewish American guy, Stan Lee. Daredevil, Doctor Strange, and so on and so forth. This is a world right now overrun and ruled by comic book interpretations. It's overrun. There's almost like, maybe like, I'd say 9 or 10 of these movies coming out, and plus the shows each year now. You know what I'm saying? MCU, biggest movie franchise right now. This is the guy, Stan Lee. You know what I'm saying? New York City, Romanian, Jewish born, which is going to be important for our discussion. And this is, we need to touch on my favorite storyline in Marvel Comics is X-Men. For those of you that think you too, mature to deal with comic books, and you're too mature, like this is, little nerdy boy shit that I'm, fanboy nerdy stuff that you think I'm talking about. Well, I'm pretty sure you're familiar with a guy named Bobby Hemmett, right? And few of his presentations that he's done throughout the 90s and the 2000s, 2010s, he was, I think I only seen it in one of his videos where or his lectures where he was saying that you got to pay attention to the comic books. Why? Because they hide stuff in the comic books. So you think it's nerdy animation, teenage boy shit, but again, it's now a multi-billion-dollar franchise right now, and you and everybody else, y'all went to go see Black Panther, didn't you? The Black Panther. This is where it comes from. So, I think it's worthwhile talking about. And then, like I said, with Bobby Hemmett, who, again, he was one of the first people to come out here and say that you need to start paying attention to these comic books, not just the movies, but the actual comic books, where you're going to get some very esoteric occult information buried deep within these comics. Because where else to put it? I mean, it's under the guise of fiction, and yeah, you can tweak it a little bit, you can make it, how you want it, but where are you deriving your source to even create that comic book storyline? So today, where do you get the X-Men from? Like, what inspired that? Where do we get the idea of these mutants that are born with these extraordinary abilities? Like, Charles Xavier, who's the bald guy in the wheelchair, who's the leader of the X-Men. So let me bring up my share screen feature. So we're gonna get right into this fella right here. I have mixed feelings about this guy. It's largely positive, you know what I'm saying? I don't really have any real negative things to say about this person. Like I said, he's a god in the comic book world. You know what I'm saying? So, and you know what I'm saying, he passed away like in 2018. And is responsible again for the Black Panther. You like the Black Panther, right? I'm not saying Black Panther all the time. I'm going to start saying the Black Panther. Vibranium. And like I said, we need to start digging into the history of these people who create these things. So this is a common thing when it comes to like a lot of entertainers or writers or people that are famous in America, where you don't know where they actually come from. And what they usually do is change their name. They Americanize their name so that you don't know their true origin or history. So Stan Lee is one of those people. And if you look into a lot of actors and directors and a lot of Hollywood people, you'll, if you start doing your homework and your research and start digging into the soil, you'll see that a lot of these people are actually Jewish. You know what I'm saying? They change their name. They take on a stage name that sounds more American, so that you don't suspect who they actually are. So Stan Lee is a Romanian born Jew. Very important to this discussion. He's Romanian born Jewish person, Jewish person. Like I said, his parents migrated to New York City. And he actually was he born here, or um I don't know if he was born here or he came here with his parents. I'm not totally sure, but largely he grew up here. Now, why is this important to X-Men? Is because we need to start exploring what do you mean by X? Why are you putting X in front of the name men? What's the X all about? You know what I'm saying? Well, look no further, buddy, than the actual etymology of Hebrew, because that's another name for Jewish people, right? It's Hebrew. Like they also call themselves Hebrew. They go about deal with Hebraic things and Hebraic customs and culture. What is Hebrew? What does that mean? This is important. So let's go through a few of these etymology pages. So Hebrew is from the old French Hebrew, Latin Hebraeus, Greek Hebreos, Aramaic Ebre, and going all the way back to Hebrew is Ibri or even Ivri, Israelite. This is misleading. We need to go a little bit deeper. Now, if we go into them talking about a traditional ancestral name, Eber, which they're saying probably literally means one from the other side, perhaps in reference to the river Euphrates, or perhaps simply signifying immigrant. Now, again, this is kind of I don't like going to online etymology dictionary because they are they're too light on, or they don't go deep into the etymology. They don't go as deep as I need them to go, because you're implying things, but you're not really hitting it on the head, the hammer on the head. You know what I'm saying? Me hitting the hammer, and I need to hammer this point home so that this live stream of this video makes sense or it's worth watching. Now let's go to another website. They got the idea of you from one from the other side, but we need to go a little bit deeper into the etymology. So let's deal with Wiktionary, where we can go a little bit more depthical. Now it's going all the way back to this Ivri right here, which is Ayin Vet, or Vets, Ayin Vet Resh and Yod. So it spells or is pronounced Ibri or Ivri. So let's go deep into what this means. Let's go all the way to the Hebrew and deal with Ivri. Now we need to be where we need to be, because what this really is talking about is cross. Avar is related to avar, meaning cross. What did we say? What are we talking about today? X-Men. What is an X? Cross. So who are the X-Men really? What is the X-Men? What is that story really talking about? You know what I'm saying? What are we really discussing? Or I say discussing. What are we really discussing here? You know what I mean? What are we really discussing? Cross. What does it mean to cross? What are you crossing? What's being crossed here? What is this cross talking about? So when you say Hebrew, you're talking about people who are cross people. There are people associated with a cross. That's what it means to say Hebrew, Heribu, Ibri, Ivre, Ivri. These are cross people. What does it mean when you're talking about a cross? Now, there are several things we can say. Like, for example, I like always dealing with this thing when it deals with genetics. You're crossing one thing with another. You can also deal with this in a way of saying that these are entities that crossed over from one place to another. They even talk about the river Euphrates or the river Jordan, and this is things you can get in your Bible or whatever. But there is an esoteric meaning or occult meaning of Hebrew versus what you think it means today. Like, for example, you think it's just a race or ethnicity of people that's from Israel. No, that is the exoteric understanding of that. So you have a situation where there's a group of people who took a name from an occult understanding and made it mundane. They made it worldly when actually it's an occult understanding, which is nothing new. It's not an uncommon thing to do. So what we're talking about here is cross people, X-Men. Who created the X-Men? This guy right here, him and Jack Kirby and Steve Ditko and him. This guy. So why would a Hebrew person or a Jewish person create X-Men? You know what I'm saying? Why would they do that? What are you trying to say? I like this. You're getting ahead of me. I was about to get to this where it talks about an X. So let's deal with some, fictional mythology or fictional history. Now, what I like about fictional history is that it shows you, it doesn't have to be real, but where they getting the source from is real. Because now we're talking about species and genetics, obviously, right? That's what makes you a Hebrew. We're focusing on your genetics. So we go to this Marvel database again. We're dealing with Marvel comics, and the very first sentence dealing with mutant genes, because that's what the X-Men is kind of based on. Mutants, which are considered Homo superior, are distinguished from baseline humans, which are Homo sapiens or Homo sapiens sapiens, and their mutant genes. Now we get into this, this fictional theme about these celestial entities, these gods that came across this human race and inserted new type of genetic material into their genome so that as their as the species goes on, that X gene starts to become active or online in these beings, and that leads to these mutants, which that's what they're calling these humans that have an expressed X gene. You know what I'm saying? They have these certain human power or these superhuman abilities, superhuman strengths, super speed, can shoot lasers out your eyes, can regenerate in like 2 seconds after they get shot or cut in the stomach or something. They can regenerate their flesh, you know what I'm saying, as if they were never hurt. Now, this is important because now we need to start talking about X-Men, which was created in the 1960s. Now, they keep tying this X-Men thing to civil rights. What do I mean? A lot of people are in the belief that Stan Lee created the X-Men to address his, put commentary on, the whole civil rights thing, especially as it revolves around Malcolm X and Martin Luther King Jr., and how they had these opposing viewpoints as far as how black people should deal with the racism that they're facing and the discrimination and the disenfranchisement that they're facing from the ruling class of so-called white people or whatever, right? So a lot of people think that the two main characters that we know from X-Men, like the Professor Charles Xavier and the Malcolm X character, no, not the Malcolm X character, the Magneto, the Eric Lyncher, the Magneto. They think that Professor X and Magneto is a mutant version of Dr. Martin Luther King and Malcolm X. That's what a lot of people believe. Now, there's some people saying that that's not true. There's some people saying that it is true. My point is, we need to get into what an X-Men actually is. So this is a Jewish person creating comic books about X-Men, and we know that Hebrew means cross. So my approach to this is, we need to start looking at the X-Men as the true representation or a symbol for the actual Hebrew, because now it takes Hebrew out of the exoteric, mundane ethnicity and puts them into the more occult realm of things. So if you had the X gene, this is what this article is talking about, the X gene, which is said to be made from these celestial entities that did some genetic engineering on, Homo sapiens, right, or humans. They modified their genetic, material so that they express a greater potential of their ability, right? Because who are some of your favorite X-Men? Wolverine is probably the foremost or most well-known mutant in this storyline. And who's Wolverine? Logan. Wolverine has the ability to accelerate his healing. So, for example, like I said before, if you were to shoot this dude in the face or cut him or, throw a bomb at him, he won't take it the same way a regular human would. A regular human will probably die instantly or bleed out. Not Wolverine. He has an accelerated healing factor where if you do any damage to him, he can heal as if he was never damaged. Now, there's real world accounts of such a thing, but it's usually in the realm of occult spirituality. Sometimes it's in the realm of genetics. It's all obviously is in the realm of genetics. Do you have Cyclops, another well-known mutant character who can shoot laser beams out of his eyes? You know what I'm saying? You have Beast, who's that big furry blue, genius intellect, mutant who, what I'm saying, he's he's a beast. Obviously, that's why they call him Beast. They wasn't really creative with his name. You got Jean Grey, who has the ability to, telekinesis. She can move things with her mind. She can also control minds and use telepathy like Charles Xavier can. Who else? Name some mutants. You got Nightcrawler, another blue mutant who can actually teleport, and is very acrobatic. Who else? It's just any X-Men, any mutant you can name. You know what I mean? So these are beings or people who have extraordinary abilities. Extraordinary abilities. You know what I'm saying? They can do things that the normal human cannot do. Now, is this completely fictional, or is there some real accounts to that in our world? I gotta lean more towards the latter. But when you're talking about X-Men, you're talking about the actual Hebrew. Hence the title of this live stream, the Hebrewisms of X-Men. Because it wouldn't be such a strong case if we didn't if the Stan Lee or these creators was not Jewish. Because the X-Men came out in the 60s, so this was a time of civil rights. This was a time of where you had people, mostly black people, trying to get civil rights and trying to, let them know that I have rights as a person that you other ethnicities are not going to infringe on or take away from me. So you had a lot of civil rights leaders like Malcolm X, Medgar Evans, Martin Luther King. You know what I'm saying? I forgot the other names. They're not coming to me right now, but you know what I'm talking about. You know what I'm saying? Civil rights. You know what I mean? But not just for black people, but black people were kind of like the flagship or the flagship people in this movement. But after us comes, what I'm saying, you have your Chinese, you have your Jewish, obviously, you have your Hindu, all other ethnicities that didn't really identify as white Anglo-Saxon Protestant, which is, the average white person in America, right? Because even with the Jewish thing, the Jewish people were never seen as white people in this whole USA construction. They were discriminated against just like black people, just like Chinese people, just like Spanish people, Hispanics, Latino, and going on and on and on. You know what I'm saying? So I'm pretty sure when you start talking about Stan Lee, again, this is a person who was born Stanley Martin Lieber, but he changed his name to Stan Lee to make himself appear more American. so that he can fit in and be white just like all the other white people. Because you wouldn't even suspect him to be a Jewish person if just by looking at his name. And even looking at him as a person, it's like he just look like a regular white person, right? So you can tell that facing discrimination, you sit here and take on a more Americanized name so that you can appear white. Because there was a lot of anti-Semitism going on, and especially when you get to like your World War II, you know what I'm saying? It's a lot of anti-Semitism going on. It's a lot of that going on. They don't tell you about that. They just tell you about these German Nazis, discriminating against the Jewish over there in Europe. But they don't tell you that over here in America, these Jewish people was discriminated against just like blacks or Chinese. You know what I mean? They don't tell you that. A large anti-Semitic sentiment going on over here. You know what I'm saying? If you wasn't the Anglo-Saxon Protestant white person, you were other. You were outside of the Aryan or the this whole construct of this white person. So you see like a lot of Polish people, a lot of Italians, a lot of Irish people. They were never originally white. So they dealt with this civil rights thing in a way that they gained their whiteness. They were able to now be recognized as white people by the government. That wasn't what it originally was. They were immigrants in the same way that you would look at Mexican immigrants today. They were in that lane, but they did some political maneuvering. So now you look at them as, white people too. But that wasn't original. And then you also have books and different accounts throughout history where you had people discriminating or had negative things to say about Jewish people. But we're focusing more on the Hebrew side because the word Jew kind of goes all the way back to the word Yehuda or Tahuti, which also ties us to alchemy because we're dealing with the occult too. Now, and it also ties us to the alchemy dealing with genetics, because I've already told you in previous works or videos that whenever you're dealing with genetics, you are ultimately dealing with alchemy. Genetics is a child of alchemy. So obviously you're talking about the X gene, which is this fictional thing that they're talking about, where you have, chromosomes that um decide if you're going to be the regular human being or you're going to be this homo superior with these extraordinary abilities and powers. You know what I'm saying? Now, and then there's another sentiment going around, like even today, where a lot of these LBGTQ people keep saying that the X-Men is an allegory for homosexuality and lesbianism, which I'll say that's incorrect. Especially what we're talking about today. This is more about being Hebrew and Jewish rather than you being black, homosexual, lesbian, or any other ethnicity. Because the true Hebrew is the true crossed over being. To be Hebrew means you have crossed over. So go into the occult and deal with anything that deals with you crossing over something, or you crossing the sands, or you crossing over a river. So let's go into Greek mythology. River is a very important concept in Greek mythology because it deals with the land of the living crossing over to the land of the dead, and you getting into these 5 rivers to get to Hades, or the Greek version of hell. So the river Styx being the most commonly known river that you would cross over to get into the realm of the dead. So it's even in the Greco-Roman mythology of this idea of crossing over. So it deals with the concept of you having crossed over to one side and then crossed back over, and now you're on both sides. You have experienced both sides of the river. Now, if you look at X-Men, that is you saying that we're dealing with genetics, but what if the genetics is also tied to you being able to cross over from one realm and then cross back over? So when you cross over and cross back, did you take something with you when you cross back over? So now we're dealing with the idea or the concept of the death and resurrection, aren't we? You died in from this realm, you went into the realm of the dead, And then he was he was resurrected back into the realm of the living, and now you are considered the cross person. You are now the Hebrew. Where else do we find this concept dealing with the Christ? Do we not? You can even go to the church right down the street or right up the road, and you'll see some iconography of a cross or the Jesus figure on a cross. So that Jesus Christ is a cross person. He was a Hebrew. But today they have you think that this is some sort of religious ethnicity that has their home in Israel. Israel is a new country, it's a new nation. Israel was created in like what, 1950s? It's a new nation. It's nothing that was actually something that's as old as like China or as Great Britain or France. It's new. It came out in the 19th century. They created that as a home for themselves. So it's not an ethnicity. That's what we're trying to deal with here. We're dealing with an actual species of being that is supposed to be superior to the human. So later on in this live or this video, we're going to get into how, like a character like Apocalypse, which is my favorite character in the Marvel comics, is actually tied to this idea of crossing over or dealing with this X gene that is latent or asleep or dormant within us, you know what I'm saying? And it's supposed to come online or turn on. Now, going back to the whole debate or the problem between Professor X and Magneto, because we know Magneto is in his name. He has the ability to control metal using, magnetic fields. He can bend it to his will. He can control it. He can, what I'm saying, hit you with it. He can do all types of magnetic stuff because that's his name, Magneto. And then for those of you that don't know about Charles Xavier, he's, considered, the world's strongest psychic. He has the ability of telepathy where, if you don't have nothing blocking your mind, he can go into your mind and make you think and believe whatever the hell he wants you to do. You know what I'm saying? So the central conflict between them is how should they deal with other mutants or X-Men around the world? How should we deal with that? Should we be peaceful? Should they be peaceful? Should they get along with other normal human beings? Should they fit into society and use their powers for good? Or like Magneto says, should they join up and, become the superior race and do as they please and over rule humans because humans are supposed to be underneath them as far as like their superiority. So in dealing with how the X-Men came out in the 60s, it was all about being discriminated against for you being a freak or you being born with these abilities. So for example, if you beast, Hank McCoy in the Marvel comics, if you're a beast, you're this big ass blue fur ball that has, what I'm saying, you can climb up trees, you know what I'm saying, you can swing all you do all the stuff that a beast can do. You're going to be discriminated against from the average human being. You're going to be made fun of. You're going to be set. You'll say you're going to be discriminated against. You're a freak to them. So what do you decide? Do you want to join with Xavier or Charles Xavier, where he's like, come join my school for the gifted and learn to use your powers to serve humanity and be at peace with people? Or join Magneto and be on some, no, I don't have to sit here and be accommodationist to none of these humans. I can use my powers as I wish because I'm the superior creature. I'm superior to you. I have the X gene activated in my being, and that gives me the ability, as a beast, I can smell things further away than you can. I have superhuman strength. You're not as strong as me if I'm a beast, right? I have fangs. I don't know if that makes you more powerful if you got fangs, but I can do all these abilities that you cannot. And then with Beast, he's actually has a genius level intellect. So that even, not only having the physical prowess that's greater than the average human, I also have the intellect, or genius level intellect that, supersedes any type of human intellect. So not only am I superior physically, I'm superior mentally as Beast. You feel me? And then the whole thing with genetics and experimentation and engineering. Because now let's go to Wolverine, where, like I said, he's the most famous mutant that everybody knows about. You know what I'm saying? You can't even do an X-Men movie without putting Wolverine in it. You know what I'm saying? Doesn't make sense. Like that last X-Men movie they did, what was it called? Dark Phoenix, where they did the Dark Phoenix saga or storyline, like for the second time. Wolverine ain't even in that movie, and you can tell that no one really wanted to watch it because he ain't in it. So let's deal with Wolverine. So Wolverine is a mutant that, because of his accelerated healing factor, he has lived longer than you would think. You know what I'm saying? So in the comics, I think he was they depict him in some sort of war from like the 1800s. So he's actually like over 100 years old because he has that mutant ability where he can heal, so it slows his aging down. So regular human beings find him interesting. He's still a freak, but they find him interesting enough where they trick him into being part of this science experiment where they graft this metal, this fictional metal called adamantium, and they graft this metal onto his skeleton, and they also give him claws. So you know about Wolverine having the claws where he can, you know what I'm saying, he can stab you with them and scratch you in your face with them or whatever. But he was experimented on. So as a mutant, should you trust humanity? Should you be on the side of humans who have sat here and kidnapped you or tricked you into being a part of this experiment where you could have died in this experiment where they actually grafted this metal, hardest metal known to man, onto his bones? And he's not even the only mutant that they've been experimenting on. So this unethical experimentation on these extraordinary beings, right? So you got to ask the question: should I lean more towards being like Charles Xavier, where I'm on some Martin Luther King shit, where I should turn the other cheek and be peaceful and not fight back and do all that, or should I be on some Malcolm X shit, where it's like Battle of the Bullet? You know what I mean? Join the Brotherhood of Mutants with Magneto, where he's like, nah, the future is us. We are the future. The humans are what I'm saying, they're a dying breed. You know what I'm saying? You need to evolve into being this new thing. Things inside of you need to come online so that you can tap into your potential. Why would you want to just live like a human being when you have the potential to be damn near a demigod? The powers to move things with your mind, the power to walk through walls, like what's her name? What was it? Shadow Cat? The Kitty Pryde John? She can walk through walls and stuff like that. Why would you want to just be a normal human where there is no real powers about you? It's just you live a human life and that's it. There's nothing extraordinary about you. Like there's nothing, you didn't tap into any of your potentials at all. You know what I'm saying? And the point of this discussion again is dealing with what is really meant by the word Hebrew. We already sat here and talked about what it really means. It's you having crossed over or being a part of this cross over from something else into something else. Why would you call yourself a cross person? What does that mean? Why would you call the fictional character Jesus a cross person? Why would you call him a Hebrew? What does it mean to be that? So if we go back to this fictional thing about the mutant genes, this is a word that I can definitely use, or a term we can use here. Where it's at. This term here, right here. Where's that? Homo superior. So if you have the potential to become Homo superior, why not take that advantage? Why not go into that path? You know what I mean? Why not? Or you just want to be Homo sapiens, but you have the potential in you to become Homo superior. So it also deals with the whole slave master morality. The idea that you have a certain set of moralities based on you being from one side or another. So for example, if you want to be like Charles Xavier and Professor X, it's more about you caring about the world, the human race. So you want to be a benefit to the race. You want to be a benefit to people who are not as on the level that you are. So you have to sit here and play human with all the other humans for their safety, for their benefit. You being, selfless. See, these are all slave morality virtues. You being selfless, you being caring about other people, you being kind, you know what I'm saying? Sticking your neck out for the fellow man or whatever. Or you can go the other way and deal with master morality, where it's like it's all about your pride, it's all about strength, it's all about power. You have this potential. So what are you supposed to do for other human beings that are lesser than you? Are you supposed to cut your power down and fit in? Or are you going to stand out as that homo superior and be that true Hebrew? See, Hebrew is not an ethnicity. Hebrew is a species. That's the point. That's the point. Now look around you. Look around you. Look all, you know what I'm saying? Look around you. Name everything here, or see if you could find things in your environment or in your society that is put there to keep you in your human state, to make sure that you don't transcend or evolve into your homo superior state. Things to keep you from evolving. Because like I said, the whole X-Men thing also deals with evolution. There's also, like, if you go into the cartoons or the animation, they have because the X-Men animated series that came out in the 90s, which is then it, about that. I don't know, what I'm saying? You ate your cereal on Saturday morning and watch X-Men and them and Spider-Man and shit like that. But then they have the one that came out in like the early 2000s, the X-Men Evolution. So they even put the word evolution in the title for that one. So that's kind of like a reboot of that series. Well, they just kind of redo. No, is it a reboot? No, no, no. It's just a whole new X-Men series. You know what I'm saying? X-Men Evolution. And they also deal with Darwinism and all that. We're gonna get to that later in this live. But do you wish to evolve? This is what the live is. This video is also about as well. Do you want to evolve? Do you want to evolve? Do you want to do that? But realize that in your environment and in your society, you're given everything to keep you from evolving. It's like placing caterpillars in this big ass tank or this big ass artificial field where everything is put in place so that the caterpillar never becomes the butterfly. So we can bring that back into this conversation of dealing with caterpillars and butterflies. So Homo sapien is the caterpillar. Homo superior is the butterfly. Which one do you want to be? Because if you really sit here and go into sacred texts such as the Bible, the Holy Bible, there's nothing but alchemical allegory. If you're reading it, that gives you the lessons and the steps in the formulae for you to become that butterfly. But are you reading the Bible the right way, or the way that it ought to be read so that you can evolve? You see, the Bible, my friend, is, if you're reading it correctly, is a book of evolution. It's an alchemical allegory. So if you were truly Christ-like, it's not you sitting here, going through some sacrifice to be burned on a cross and all the shit that they deal with the theology of it. It's you becoming the Hebrew. Jesus becomes the Hebrew. Jesus the man, and then Jesus the Hebrew. He transcends the Homo sapien shit to become the Homo superior. That's what the Bible is about. Because some of y'all out here is still like, talking about some fuck Jesus, and you hate on, or you sit here and make fun of. I make fun of Christians too, but what I'm saying, it's never. You either deal with the theology or the alchemy of it. Which one do you deal with? Because if you deal with the theology, that's human. That's to keep humans in their human state. They go to, they worship Jesus. They wear the cross around their neck. They got the little bumper sticker on the back, coexist. You know what I'm saying? They believe in God. You know what I mean? Or you can deal with the alchemical side of things, where it's all about you evolving into your homo superior state. It's up to you. But just know that that is exactly what the Christ story is about. We can have debates on it for those that want to debate on it. You know what I'm saying? Thank you for that Black Adam thing. I actually watched Black Adam. Did that movie come out this year? I think it did, right? Or late last year, the Black Adam movie. It was 2023, right? With The Rock, Dwayne Johnson in it. Yeah, I seen that movie. I'm thinking it was this year. Was it this year? I don't know. Correct me in the comment section. But anyway, that's what this is all about. But under a societal colonization is all about keeping your ass in a human state. You never become the X-Man, but the X gene is right there in you. You have the potential. Especially for those of you that have the luxury, or you come across a certain video like this. A video like this will never come across your eyeballs, or your, you know what I'm saying, your line of sight, if you ain't ready to do this shit. Trust me. Even if you don't even sit here and do the work to do this, it's still something, somewhere in your mind, you really want to go through this process, or really want to become that Hebrew. Because it's the whole thing today is like, all these people claiming themselves to be the actual Jewish person, or the actual Hebrew. But the whole thing is, if you didn't go through that walk, that crossing, you're not the Hebrew. You're still the caterpillar. So you have the potential to cross, you have the potential for Hebrew, but you're not that yet. Now, in the X-Men story, you have these beings that are born like that. But this is what leads us into Apocalypse, because Apocalypse is someone, or a character in this. He's one of the major villains of the X-Men world, and then of Marvel Comics in general, where he's an ancient mutant, or ancient Hebrew, where he was born complete, damn near. So just like, for example, if you was born with the ability to, I don't know, you can shoot lasers out of your eyes. That's it. That's all you can do. Can you do more? We talking about Cyclops. Like, is that all you can do? Like, is that the cap on your potential? All you can, like, you can shoot laser or sun rays out of your eyes. Can you do more than that? Because let's deal with Cyclops. Like, Cyclops has to wear special ruby shades to keep his eye beams from shooting all over the place. That's what helps him control his power. But we see iterations where he evolves to be able to control the eyes, or his laser beams, without using his glasses or his special shades. He evolves. Even in the movie that came out in 2016, X-Men Apocalypse, that whole movie is about those younger mutants trying to control their powers. So they're Hebrew to a degree. They still have a ways to go. And Apocalypse is the representation of that. And and even calling him Apocalypse, like giving this character that name, is not necessarily about the destruction of the world, but the revelation of who we truly are, potential. So when Apocalypse comes, what does he do? Now they have iterations of this character where he's all about trying to deify himself. It's two types of apocalypses that they deal with. Is the one where he's trying to self-deify, and then the second one is where he's interested in advancing humanity into their next stage of evolution. So my favorite iteration of Apocalypse is in the actual the TV animation series, X-Men Evolution. That's my favorite iteration of him, because he's not focused so much on trying to be some god. He's focusing on setting things up so that humans, who they think they're just regular humans, he's setting it up so that if you do have this X gene that's sleeping in you, it's time to wake it up. That's all he's focused on. He's not trying to do any type of, traditional villainous take over the world, destroy it. It's no, his destruction is for the purpose of separating the wheat from the chaff, or the chaff, which is separating the weak from the strong, or separating the those who don't have that X gene They don't deserve to survive. And those who do, their X gene turns on and they become the Hebrew. They become the fully realized being. They become that. But he's framed like a villain because who's writing the show? Who's writing the TV show? Who's writing the comics? Again, though, there's all these things in place in your environment, in your society, that's keeping you human. So the apocalypse is all about, when he like, for example, watching the movie X-Men Apocalypse, when he wakes up, he sees that the world that is not the same as the world he once ruled. The world is now overrun by lesser creatures, by Homo sapiens, when it should be ruled by the Hebrew or the Homo superior. So just put yourself in his shoes. You're 5,000 years old, you know what I'm saying? You woke up from your sleep and, now the world is overrun by humans and their systems. What are the systems? Money, media, credit. Like for those of you that trying to get your credit fixed, all these systems are in place to, marginalize and subject you to keep you human. You're worried about your credit score. You're worried about making tons of money. You're worried about what's on the news. All these systems here to keep you subjugated in a human prison. So his whole idea is, well, no, we need to shut all these systems down. It's not even about destroying the world. It's about destroying these human systems, these human prisons that are imprisoning not only just regular humans, but Hebrews, like, for example, Storm, Jean Grey, Cyclops, Nightcrawler, Wolverine, Jubilee. You know what I'm saying? Gambit. People love Gambit because he has the power to like charge kinetic energy into objects and turn them into explosives. Very powerful thing. But they're all being subjugated and being discriminated against by humans in their human systems. Human systems in place to keep you from being Hebrew or going into your homo superior state. You know what I'm saying? Now fancy that. You know what I'm saying? Fancy that. Contemplate that. You lived your whole life where they had these messages and movies saying that, oh, you're only human. This is what it means to be human. We're all human. Humans make mistakes. You're a human. All the while, they're not telling you, or they're showing you that this is a potential that you have, but they keep trying to put it in a context where it's controlled. So even with the Avengers, for example, yeah, y'all have powers, y'all have abilities, but you need to have those powers and abilities in service to, the human system. You feel me? And if there is people out there that's not conforming to that and they do have these abilities and powers, they need to be destroyed, locked down, killed, you know what I'm saying, or something along those lines. So again, picture yourself in this big ass fucking artificially created environment where everything is put in place to lock you down genetically. So obviously, if you're a geneticist, you discover some things about people that you don't want them knowing about. You don't want them tapping into. You don't want them exploring the potential of. You need them to be locked down. Now, also in this whole X-Men storylines, that they also deal with, government and how the government sees these extraordinary beings with extraordinary abilities. You know what I'm saying? Like Charles is extraordinary abilities. You know what I'm saying? I want to. I don't know about you, but I want to see what extraordinary abilities I have. because that's an unrealized potential. It's a lot of people that are going to perish in this incarnation without knowing that they had those abilities. You know what I'm saying? But even in the first X-Men movie that came out in 2000 with Patrick Stewart, he plays perfect casting for him too. Perfect casting. Even with Magneto, he's played by Ian McKellen, who plays um Gandalf in the Lord of the Rings movies, right? Perfect casting. They perfectly casted them. And then they had what's her name, the joint that plays or they just did the characters, Jean Grey. She's actually in DC in the government and trying to explain that, she's basically a mouthpiece for Charles Xavier, like, basically saying that, these people that have these freakish or super abilities, they're still kind of human. They still have feeling. They still are people that don't understand their abilities. And, if they come to a school like Charles Xavier School for the Talented and Gifted, they can learn how to, you know, control their powers, control their abilities, and be, upright citizens just like everybody else. You know what I'm saying? But then she's countered by someone that a politician that wants to put a program in place to regulate and control and jail and monitor mutants. So it's just like, if it was in some Nazi type of situation where you're tagging and tattooing and branding these Jewish people so you can watch them, monitor them, experiment on them, you know what I'm saying? Just like if they were animals at a factory or something like that, like a factory farm or something. And even in that scene, Magneto and Charles Xavier are there at that conference or that government presentation. You know what I'm saying? Because Magneto is like, man, we are the superior entity. We don't need to be subject to none of the rules of a inferior creature. That's just like a lion, or you know what I'm saying, a lion following in the rules of the zebra. That don't make sense. What? Or the shark has to follow the rules of a school of trout or like a school of goldfish or something like that. Like, nigga, you a shark. What you mean? If I'm a shark and you're a goldfish, I don't have to get in step with no goldfish government or goldfish rules or goldfish system. But this is what Apocalypse sees in the movie X-Men Apocalypse. He wakes up and sees that you got mutants like Storm, you know what I'm saying, Aurora Monroe, and she's out in the streets like a hobo. And she's supposed to be the goddess of her, you know what I'm saying? Because Storm is Kenyan. She's from Africa. She's a Kenyan mutant, but in the comic books, she's treated like a goddess in her country. They revere her as a goddess. And that's exactly what Apocalypse wants. Because from his time, if you a mutant, which they didn't call it that, even saying mutant is a form of discrimination. It's like calling a black person a Negro or like a nigger or something like that. If you're a Hebrew or you're born with extraordinary abilities, you need to be you should be worshipped. You're the superior creature. Like, this is a woman, little girl that can control the weather. She can make it storm. She can make it snow. She can create tornadoes, hurricanes. And you sitting up here living on the streets of Egypt trying to steal bread? No, but you should be in a castle or a palace somewhere being fed grapes. You know what I'm saying? What you mean? But again, Apocalypse is framed as the villain because he wants to destroy the systems, not the world, just these human systems. You know what I'm saying? If you're born with extraordinary abilities, you should not be someone who has to subjugate themselves or, keep yourself down just to please an inferior creature. What are you talking about? You should be on the level of demigod. You should be sitting on thrones. Because how do you stop somebody that can create hurricanes and tornadoes? So if there's any storms out there, Oya type women out there. You can control the weather, or you deal with that energy of thunder and lightning and all that. Rain queen type. I've talked about that in my book. Here, let me pull out the book. Advertisement time. Let's pull out the book. So I have the mitochondria weave document in my book as a chapter. Hold on. Yeah, so chapter 19 of my book, Mitochondria Weave Midichlorian Eve, where I talk about the rain queens of South Africa. So it's these women that they have these, supposed abilities of being able to control the weather. So if you have that ability, what makes you think you should be subject to any type of human control? You're beyond human. You're the Homo superior. You're the actual Hebrew. So you got Hebrews right now, or potential, I ain't gonna say Hebrew, but potential Hebrews that think they're just human and will never ever, for whatever reason, they won't evolve. They won't step into their Hebrew state. They won't do it. They believe too much in the system that is out here. You see that? So this is me trying to frame the whole, Hebrew, or excuse me, the X-Men thing in a Hebrew understanding, because they like trying to, like I said, they like trying to put in an understanding of, they're talking about black people, or they're talking about LBGTQ. It's like, it's going beyond that. We're not talking about your ethnicity, and we're not talking about your sexual orientation or your gender. Because if you go into the X-Men world, you got mutants from all over the fucking world. We just talked about Storm. She's from Kenya. She's African. She's from Kenya, the country of Kenya. Colossus, Peter, he's from Russia. Wolverine is from Canada. You feel me? Nightcrawler is German. So it has nothing to do with ethnicity or your sexual gender. We're not talking about it. It goes beyond that. You have mutants as dark as me, darker than me, and lighter than me, and as light as how, what I'm saying, as far as skin tone is concerned. So that's not a factor here. You know what I'm saying? It's your species. It's you having this activated X gene, and you being in this Hebrew state, this Hebrew species. So you should know that the human thing is just a launch pad, or the cocoon or the caterpillar stage for the butterfly Hebrew. That's what I'm trying to say here, or that's what I want to get across to you by you watching this. And like I said, they deal with this whole origin story for the mutants, where, like I said, it's these, otherworldly entities that put the X gene into humans, so that the humans will have the potential to become these, extraordinary entities or extraordinary creatures. You know what I'm saying? So it's genetic engineering before what we know it as today. But instead of one set of humans doing experiments on another set of humans, it's these superior entities doing experiments on humans. And this whole thing, like I said, it may be fictional, you're using fictional names, but you can find similar shit like this in different mythologies. You know what I mean? Because what comes to mind readily is the whole Mesopotamian um uh what's it called? I keep forgetting stuff. I don't know why I keep forgetting it. It don't you be live and you just be forgetting things that you be thinking about all the time. It's crazy. So you deal with the Mesopotamian thing like Enlil and Tamiat and or Tiamat and all that stuff. You know what I mean? That's what it brings to mind when I read this fictional mythology. Because you're dismissing it because it's fictional, but where are they getting the idea from? All fiction is based on some truth. They even talk about the Eternals, and they just did a movie on that, like maybe like a couple years ago, dealing with the Marvel Eternals, like these beings that just sit and wait, and they're not supposed to interfere with human um activity. They're just supposed to sit here and watch and defend the world from these outer entities, deviants or whatever. You know what I'm saying? So we talking about genetic engineering going back millennia. That's another thing. People be thinking that this genetic shit is new. It's nothing new about no genetics. Genetics is as old as this race of people, is as old as that. Being able to manipulate someone's genome or their genetics, that's nothing. That's not a new thing. It's not a new idea. It's an alchemical one. So if you are astute or advanced alchemist, you was already doing this genetic shit that they're doing today, and not even having to use these artificial technologies to do the actual engineering. And then, like I said, as you go along with these comic book stories, they keep changing the storyline or keep introducing things and then retconning other things. So even here, they say that there was no mutant gene, but there was some sort of other type of, um, understanding behind the reason why Magneto can control metal, or why Cyclops can shoot sun or laser beams out his eyeballs and shit. Because and that's kind of true, because it's not something, if we're dealing with things that are beyond the physical, right? Because even genetics, like I've talked about in previous videos, I keep saying that phrase in previous works. Because again, I'm just sometimes you gotta hear this shit over and over for it to stick, or put it in context with other types of information. But you know, genetics is, or when you talk about genes and chromosomes, this is beyond the physical. Study a concept known as wave genetics or the wave genome theory, where they're saying that your genetics is actually not even physical. It's more spectral. It's more going beyond the visible light spectrum and dealing with that range of reality. So before you get into the molecules and the atoms and all that, we're dealing with a whole different level of reality and what your genetics actually is. And then another understanding is who designed you that way, or what designed you that way. Like dealing with X-Men, they have various different abilities and various different, you know, freakish appearances, or I ain't gonna say freakish, but like for example, we have Mystique, who actually has the ability to actually, she's a shapeshifter. So she doesn't have to actually live like like Beast or Nightcrawler, which spoiler alert, Nightcrawler is the son of Mystique. But with her mutant ability, she can, like I said, she can make herself look like any woman she's literally every woman. She, or at least on the surface, she can shapeshift herself. Even to men, she can shape herself into anybody. You know what I'm saying? So she doesn't have to live with that persecution. But she always has to hide and make herself look like the normal human being, right? But for some other mutants, they don't have that luxury. Like Beast, he can't do that unless you try to stick him with a serum that turns his beast power. And they even explore that in when they retcon the X-Men in the movies, like X-Men First Class, X-Men Days of Future Past, and then X-Men Apocalypse, where Beast, the white dude with the glasses, he develops a serum that he can inject into himself and turn him back into a human. So he's not even proud or embracing the fact that he is homo superior. He wants to he wants to look and remain human. But then I guess by the end of that trilogy, going to X-Men Apocalypse, he learns how to embrace the beast in him. You know what I'm saying? Because there's a lot of you right now, you're going to be watching this, or anybody, y'all have abilities that you are afraid of or you don't want to embrace. You know, you got a little freak in you, but you don't want to be a freak. Like somebody that's born with polydactyly or whatever it's called, where you have a sixth finger. You know what I'm saying? You ever met somebody with a, you know what I'm saying, they got six fingers on their hand? That's considered you a mutant at that point. And then now you're supposed to be looked at as a freak. So they would probably try to, put you in a circus if it was talking about like, 100 years ago. You know what I mean? You'd be part of the circus freaks, not knowing is there an advantage of you having six fingers on one hand? Or if you're born as a Siamese twin, like, where you and your twin are attached in the body, like, is there an advantage of that? Because it's supposed to be looked at as you being this freak or this monster, but it's like, again, why was y'all born like that and not me or him or her? What's the point? What's the semiosis of it? The semiotics. I'm always dealing with semiotics, right? What's the meaning behind that? Is it really some accident or was it intentional? And what was the intent? Like, just think about all the abilities anybody has ever claimed. Like, for example, just in the real world, like people claiming to be able to see dead people or something like that. Or, for example, what's another one? Like some of these savants that can, I've talked about this before. There go that phrase again, where they took this savant guy, they put him in a helicopter and had him look at the whole, New York City, like the sky, like the whole skyscrapers of New York City, and then they take him back home, and then but just from memory, he's able to draw the whole New York City in detail without having to look at pictures or nothing. Extraordinary ability. You know what I'm saying? That would be considered a mutant if we're looking at mutants. You know what I'm saying? Like as we look at them in these comic books, movies, and TV shows, he would be considered a mutant. Or people like some of these athletes that we see, Michael Jordan or something like that. You know what I mean? Extraordinary basketball player. Extraordinary. What if he's a mutant? Or he tapped into that a little bit. Extraordinary abilities. Come to the school for the gifted. I teach you how to, use your powers. Or you can join the brotherhood, you know what I'm saying? Where, you know what I mean? With Magneto, where he's like, man, fuck these humans. You know what I'm saying? We rule. We homo superior. They homo inferior. Nigga. About to sit here and bow down to them. And then even looking at somebody like Charles Xavier, where he actually has the machine called the Cerebro, where it amplifies his telepathic abilities, so he can locate mutants in anybody just by going into that chamber. And he puts on the Cerebro helmet, and his powers is amplified, so he can tap into anybody's thoughts and mind all across the world. You know what I'm saying? Instead of just within a certain range without the helmet on. And that's a reason why Magneto wears his helmet, because he can block out Charles's telepathy. You know what I'm saying? That's why he wears the helmet. Um, this is dangerous, motherfucker, ain't it? Charles Xavier, this guy that's supposed to be a pacifist and Martin Luther King like, and want to be achieve peace between the mutants and the humans. But do y'all don't really know about the history of this dude? I'm gonna spill the beans on this thing today. You go in the comics, he ain't as fucking innocent as you think. If we talking about a high level psychic, he can tap into anybody's mind and make them see things or control their action. He can control them. And he's been known to do that in the comics, where he kind of, his morals, you know what I'm saying? He compromises his own morals and ethics to control people or to do this and do that. In fact, the whole thing about him and Jean Grey is the fact that he put some sort of psychic barrier into her mind where she never taps into her phoenix energy. He taught her how to control it and to keep it from coming out. which was a stupid thing on his part because all it did was build up that Phoenix power inside of her, and now it has to come out. It explodes, and now she's the Dark Phoenix, where she's now she a bad bitch. You know what I'm saying? Because she's powerful like that. Hell, she destroyed Apocalypse in the 2026 or no, I said 2016 movie. He makes her unleash her powers to kill Apocalypse. Now imagine that's like a real world scenario where you have this Phoenix like power as a kid, and then this dude comes in with these psychic powers to try to get you to live as a normal fucking mutant. When you have the goddess of power. You see, I'm gonna be like Apocalypse from that movie, where he said, "Whereas others want to control you, sis, I want to set you free. I want to set you free. The world wants to control you. They want to keep you down and subjugated. Nah, I want to set you free." So the human construct is under scrutiny here. You know what I'm saying? This is what I'm really scrutinizing. You've been told to believe that you're this thing, this human that makes mistakes, and you're only human. Is that true? What if you're more? What if you have a whole host of extraordinary abilities, but they're not online? Extraordinary. But a lot of people, and again, this is a whole thing of trying to condition people to be moralists and ethicists. You know what I'm saying? Where they got to consider morals and ethics before they use their abilities and their power. Should you? Is that a path you want to go on? If you have the ability to see through walls, you had X-ray vision. You can see through walls. You can see through people's clothes. Are you going to try to hold that back just for some moral sake or for some ethics? Should you do that? This whole thing reminds me of The Boys, because if you go to The Boys TV show, or what I'm saying, on Amazon, you got these heroes that they look like they're super moralistic and they want to save people, but behind the scenes these are some degenerate ass niggas. They don't give a fuck about shit, especially Homelander. That nigga use his laser beam vision and kill everybody. He even threatens to do that, spoiler alert, because he has the ability to do stuff like that. Should he be on some more? Should he have morals? Should he have ethics? Because that's going back to the lion zebra argument. Like, the lion needs to eat. Give a fuck about no zebra's feelings. Like, I need to eat the guts and the meat of the zebra. I don't care about what the zebra's his feelings or his ethics is. And this is master morality. It's like, it's all about me being in the dominant position. If I am that, then let me live that. Let me be that. I'm not about to sit here and live like a slave so that I can please the rest of humanity, or the rest of the zebras and stuff. I'm a lion. Or if I'm a tiger, I don't care if the deer is crying. You know what I'm saying? Now, this isn't to say you should go out there and be all fucking ravaging and killing everything, or using all your abilities to do all these wicked things. I'm just saying that who is your authority if you're of that caliber? If you're Homo superior, why should Homo sapien have any authority over what you do? I'm trying to set you free. You want to be in this human caterpillar construct. You know what I'm saying? Thinking that you have some moral superiority over people because you live like that. When that's a farce, because you have people in that run these systems, and you should see how immoral they are. You know what I'm saying? Outside of that system, it's all about subjugating you, but they don't live by the same rules. Look at all the immoral and unethical things they do. You ever think about that? Ever, what I'm saying, took a peek into that? I don't know what just happened. My screen just went blank a little bit. Can y'all still see me? Let me know if you can still see me. Just yay or nay or something like that. It's just blacked out. Things like that happen when you start talking about this stuff. So I don't know if y'all also do this stuff on your page, but I noticed that when I especially when I start talking about Jews and Hebrew stuff, you know what I'm saying? The live goes black. It looks like I'm still live. I don't think it's, yeah, I think it's still there. Okay, all good. Okay, thank you. Yeah, so you know what I'm saying? Well, I'm about to close this down anyway, but I'm just thinking of more things because I don't want to sit here and be like, oh, I gotta come out here and do a whole sequel. I'm trying to, what I'm saying, make sure I get everything, all bases covered or whatnot. You know what I mean? But yeah, that's why, Apocalypse is appealing to me, not because he's just trying to like, destroy shit, but it's all about, again, if you deal with his iteration in X-Men Evolution, he has this whole plan of, even going back 5,000 years where it's time to advance humanity in its evolution. That's what he's in charge of. That's his main goal in that show. Because I know they even sat here and kind of retconned his character, where he becomes like the protector of humanity or something like that. In his new, I don't really like the new iteration of Apocalypse, where his wife is Genesis. His wife's name is Genesis, and they have these kids. I'm not really feeling that. I guess he's supposed to be, because they like this whole multiverse thing. He must be some multiversal parallel, like an alternate version of Apocalypse. I'm not really feeling that one. But the old one, where what I'm saying, I forgot to show y'all this one. This right here. He's all about evolution and bringing about the apocalypse or the revelation of who we truly are. So, they got all these, this is like 4 or 5 different comic book issues into one. Yeah, man. It's starting with his history, like, him being born and everything. And they probably won't I'm not sure they're going to deal with this in this whole MCU because they brought in Jonathan Majors to be Kang, but we don't know he's going to be Kang anymore with that whole incident with the white girl. But Kang is in this story because Kang, Kang the Conqueror has the ability to the time travel where he goes back in time to ancient Egypt and becomes a pharaoh so that he can control the destiny of apocalypse. You know what I'm saying? It doesn't work, but that's why he goes back to this time to be like a pharaoh. He tries to get apocalypse while apocalypse is like a kid or like a teenager, and then like kind of like guide him and control him and shit like that. And this is the back of it and shit. You know what I mean? This is Ramatut. This is actually Kang the Conqueror right here. They even in that movie I just saw, Ant-Man movie with Quantum Mania, they do show him Kang as a Egyptian pharaoh. So this is Kang the Conqueror right here. But yeah, man, like that's why I'm so hype about the character because it's all about evolution, revelation, apocalypse. That's what apocalypse means. It's revelation. It's the unveiling. All will be revealed, my child. You know what I'm saying? All will be revealed. And then also, if you deal with his name and you go back to the actual Holy Bible, what is Revelation? Revelation has nothing to do with the end of the world. They keep making that a thing in the comics, like he's talking about the end of the world. It's like, no, Revelation is the end of your humanity. It's the revealing of who you truly are, or what's inside of you, or what's latent or dormant in you, or offline that goes online. That's what the book of Apocalypse in the Bible is, a revelation. You can even say it's also dealing with the coming of the age of, or the eon of Aquarius, which is, excuse me, the age of revelation. Look what all is being revealed. You know what I'm saying? You think all this stuff is new. It's like, no, it's just being revealed. It was hidden in the previous Piscean age or eon. It went to sleep. Pisces is associated with dreams and sleep. So then when it goes into the Aquarius, as it goes backwards to the zodiac, now you're dealing with awakenings or revelations, storms. You know what I'm saying? Prepare for nothing but thunderstorms. Now this is electricity. All is being revealed. So apocalypse is kind of like the embodiment of that, the representation of that. And that's why I call this video the Hebrewisms or the Hebrewisms of X-Men, because I borrowed that title, or you know what I'm saying. The idea of this title comes from the book the Hebrewisms of West Africa. So I said, hey, let's do the Hebrewisms of X-Men. People don't really know how they should be looking, the context of these X-Men. You know what I mean? They don't be knowing the context of it. They keep putting it in context of LBGTQ or it dealing with black people. Like there was even some of these, like I hate when they make these videos or these articles where they try to predict movies and what's going to be in the next movie, and then they be wrong and shit like that. But they saying that they was going to do the X-Men where it's just all black people in it. Where you kind of missing the point. You know what I'm saying? Y'all just focused on the ethnicity of them. I'm talking about the species. The species, like I said, you can have a species of jaguar. It can have all black fur, or it can have spotted fur, or somewhere in between. Y'all just focused on the fur and not the actual species. How is a panther different from a jaguar, other than it being its fur? It's the same fucking cat. You know what I'm saying? It's just one is all black and one has spots. It has a golden fur. Is then really nothing different. So if you're looking at a complexion, like for example, yeah, you see my complexion, then there's some of y'all is darker than me in skin, some of y'all lighter. Does that make us different creatures just because my skin is lighter like that? Hell, you got people that is considered white and they have all types of black in them. It's called passing. They even made a movie about it recently, you know, say where he had people that was, you know, even Jewish or just black, but they had a skin light enough where they can pass for being white people. That was the whole thing with the Irish, the Polish, the Jewish, the Italian. They was not originally white people. They were what they were from what they came from. And they were discriminated against just like any old black Mexican, Puerto Rican person that had darker skin. Y'all focus too much on the melanin sometimes. You need to kind of, you know, say expand your, you know what I'm saying, comprehension of this stuff, this understanding. I mean, but like I said, man, that's we way over an hour. I'll be trying to keep these shits at an hour, and I came up with more stuff and more stuff to talk about. But Achad, man, available right now. Autograph version, autograph copy. You can let me know how you want it autographed. And like I said, it also comes with the ebook version where you can read it on any device, anywhere, at any time. Make sure you do that. Wholographer.com slash the hyphen book. You know what I mean? And you know, I'm gonna start, you know, these are the Patreon saying thank you to them. And you know, there's other things we can deal with these comic books. Like this comic book stuff is, you know, it's prevalent. You know what I'm saying? It's not as popular as it once was. You know what I mean? I'm not like a comic book geek, like a, you know what I'm saying, super nerd, but you know, I watch the cartoons. I have this book down here. You know what I'm saying? I watch the movies. And there's commentary that can be made on what's really being said. What's the actual meaning in the propaganda of these TV shows and these movies? A very healthy conversation needs to be had about this stuff. You know what I'm saying? And like I said, going back to what I said about Bobby Hemmett, who said that they hide the stuff right there in the comic books. That they do. That they do. But again, Alakad, man, thank you for watching. If you came in late or, you know, somewhere towards the end, you know, say about to put this on my channel, you'll be able to watch, the whole thing, in your own time. So again, peace out. Da-na-na-na-na-na-na. You know what I mean?